Nope,
No, not at all.
not till this.
Live streaming.
Oh, on my end, I could hear and see everything. That was weird.
Yeah, we have still, even though like I don't know how many percent, 90% of the world, this is our day to day, right? Streaming methodology, streaming technology is yet not bug free. So,
Yeah.
but welcome everyone. It's crazy that we are already at the end of week 3. So after today, last week, final push. Super curious to hear today's update, kind of with almost at the end, right? And to see, I think we already saw some of you had already hit targets last week, which was great. Maybe we can see, how far beyond do we go? What are the learnings? What are the pivots? We will get, maybe let's talk about this now towards the end, right? So the last check-in is going to be slightly different, and I will provide you guys all a slightly different slide deck which you can use if you want to do that last check-in and kind of do a self-evaluation for next week. And after that, I would be super curious to hear all of your feedbacks. You guys are awesome that you have provided a lot of feedback on how your experience has been so far throughout, either individually or on these calls. So thanks for that. Again, just anything and everything is good, right? There's no bad feedback. We're working on a lot of kind of initiatives on the side. I mentioned right now we're kind of working on maybe starting a peer group in Italy with a couple of folks over there. We have a couple more waitlist signups I started to reach out to for Cohort 4 and constantly iterating. So it's, again, I probably say it every week, I'm not sure, but thanks for being here, because every single meeting we have is giving me so much to learn from and such good suggestions. Ray, last week I was super hyped. It's like, newsletter, fantastic idea. Started writing one and then got into the day-to-day, right? So I really need to make that a habit. I do have a piece of paper in front of me. I want to take out of every single meeting now the highlights so I don't have to rewatch it. Just kind of make my life easier and kind of summarize it, right? Maybe I can start simple. But again, bottom line here, just thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. With that, before we jump into it, does anyone want to get anything off their chest, or just want to talk about, the weather, current affairs, how excited they are for a post-corona world, like we just started to talk about, anything like that?
Yeah, now that we're past the halfway point, Sven, what have the previous cohorts been doing after the 4 weeks? And did you have thoughts about how we go there? Because just talking about that, the last session is, a little late to the party. How can I sort of want to get, keep the momentum from what we've been doing here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So currently we have one peer group in existence, which has been born out of cohort 1 and 2, I guess. So cohort 1, everyone said, hey, we want to, kind of somehow continue this. And then I said, I had this in mind beforehand, and that's how we started the first peer group. Peer group being very similar to this, but kind of almost self-led, right? I am still being there for them, facilitating it, because there is no platform yet or anything which, schedules these meetings, gives you the format, right? And all of that stuff, because rightfully so, one of their first questions when I proposed a peer group was, because that was actually now is a paid service, right? So they're paying $10 a month. My target is kind of 20 for if there is a platform. Hopefully it delivers that much value. But they said, well, why wouldn't we just do a call every week together, right? And to that, absolutely do that. So this is the number one option you guys have. If you guys want to continue just sticking your heads together, go self-organize. Fantastic. Please do so, right? In my experience, most people just don't do that, right? It just ends up not happening because no one is taking the lead. You guys are all busy. You're building your businesses as you should. You shouldn't have to worry about putting these events together. That's where I came in and said, okay, I'll do that. I'll facilitate. I'll write the software over time for it and give you guys kind of, I don't have to think about it. This is what's happening. And hopefully it's worth $10 or $20 for me every week, right? If it's not, don't be there, right? If you don't think it's valuable, don't be there. Don't join that type of group either. So that's the number one thing. Secondly, of course, we are in the Slack channel. Hopefully over time, the Slack channel will grow. You guys can see me kind of pop in people here and there slowly over the weeks with different intentions. Like I just mentioned, these guys are interested in a peer group specifically for Italy. They are interested. What's interesting here is that they're building something, but they have limitations. They can't join a cohort, well, one of them, because of their employer, right? They don't want to go public yet. They have a day job. They're planning on working on something, but they don't just want to make waves yet. So a peer group makes more sense, because in a peer group, you can also choose if you want to keep live streaming this, if you want to keep building in public, or if you just have it more, mastermind style, and you set your own format. Which also, for the peer group, the first peer group we started, I gave them a couple of suggestions on how to structure it, and they set their own format. So everyone decided if they want to continue to tweet, for example, to blog, how much they want to build in public, how they want to build in public without that being a requirement or not at all. And they commit to weekly goals now, right? So it's kind of a weekly accountability group where I say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do till next week. And then every week we have what was my progress, what actually happened, right? And what am I planning for next week? And very similar to this, kind of 2-minute, let's go over it. And then, we talk about it for 8 to 10 minutes per person. How does that sound, actually? Is that something which might sound interesting for you guys post next week?
I like the idea of a peer group. I mean, that's maybe why I joined in the first place. In some ways, I did not get as much done as I want, but in the other hand, if you remember, I literally came from nothing, and just like the different projects and mindset. A peer group sounds kind of interesting. Not committing right now, but
oh, that's a verbal contract. Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind, like what would I probably enjoy partaking in, would be more sort of deeper dives into specific areas, getting a bit more than, say, a 10-minute on a certain area, and kind of maybe broadening that to the whole of the community that you're building. And I kind of think those could be, again, live streamed, so you get to get some traction of people discovering, coming in, and we continue the kind of build in public ethos of it.
Do you mean kind of maybe an example would be customer discovery, right? And we pick maybe a specific kind of problem with this, because even customer discovery is a big topic. Maybe have like a speaker or someone who has more experience to it, something like that.
That's it. Yeah. So either someone has an area that they want to work on, or someone has an expertise they want to contribute, and sort of bringing it all together. I know, having been through the startup school with a different project, this is the online one, they do the sessions that you can watch, and then they sort of follow that through with your peer groups, and then you got the forum as well. The forum is very active, people kind of contributing. I like the video. I think this is quite nice. I think it's a bit better to get to know you guys. I kind of more workshops. I like workshops.
Cool. Yeah. So from my vision's perspective, at least, that's ultimately all of these things kind of should be in the co-starting universe, right? I guess, and I'm trying to force myself not to be too strict on this, but like I'm implicitly, I guess, gravitating towards the ones which seem to be monetizable easier, because ultimately it is a business as well. But I'm even toying with the idea of that this is just kind of a membership program, right? Like there is a certain price or tiers or something, and you just get everything, right? Whatever is happening. There is now a workshop, you can join that. There is a cohort. Maybe cohorts could be, if they're specific cohorts, maybe there's an additional fee. Maybe you join a peer group, or you start a peer group, that's where really the platform comes in, and I think will be interesting, where it's not just put together because you guys were together now. It's Ray says, okay, I would love to start a peer group, but what is important to me is figuring out SaaS sales, right? So I want to start a peer group about this topic. Who else wants to talk about this, right? and keep it open, right? Maybe there's early founders who want to do that, or a mixed group. And then I think you should be able to apply to certain peer groups as they are, if they are opening it up, and really have that flexibility. But in order to do that efficiently, that there needs to be at least an inkling of a platform at some point.
If I was to be paying monthly, it'd be quite nice to have access to the archive of things that you know what you're going to get out of it. So here we're going to be talking about SaaS sales, customer, product market fit type of things. And you can build up that library that's part of the package, and it kind of increments over time. So that's how you get from your $10 to $20 a month. Right.
I might also suggest that if you're trying to monetize this kind of group, I'm not sure that's setting you up for maximum success, because the number of people doing it is relatively small. Their willingness to pay is relatively low. Heck, we're all doing this on Jitsi, right? Why? Because we're trying to keep costs relatively low, and we're all trying to we're even talking about bootstrapping it along, right? We're not using any help to get up. The way I see what you're doing here is you're creating two kinds of asset that become monetizable. The first asset is you're generating expertise in modern bootstrapping, right? We're not the customer, we're the product. You get to see how each of these cohorts is operating. You get to see what's easy, what's hard. This is actually part of why the newsletter is sort of one of the ways you could monetize that, right? Because you're getting all of this data about what's going on that isn't based on how you would have built a Ruby on Rails startup back in 2011 when you were reading everything that Jason Fried put together, but what's happening in 2021. And I think that modernity is by itself a big advantage, and I think it's a big reason you're doing what you're doing right now. A second thing that's going to happen, and this also relates to how Startup School really monetizes, is you are getting inside data about founders. Not everyone in these groups is going to turn into something that could potentially put capital to work, be it in the form of debt or equity. But I have a reasonable suspicion that once you've done the first 4 or 5 of these cohorts, you're going to have at least one potential target 3-6 months down the road that has put some traction behind whatever business they're doing. Martin, I'm looking at you. And for that matter, Catherine, I really think what you're doing is pretty cool too. They've got a certain amount of meat on the bones of the business, and as they do more of this, you have basically inside information about what's going on, and your ability to put capital against that for a better than expected return is much greater. You could be putting your own capital to work. You could be putting investors' capital to work. It could be in the form of revenue-based financing. There are all sorts of different ways you could approach it from a structural point of view. But the key is you have that information advantage, both in terms of knowing what works to build the business and which founders have the better traction. And you put those two things together, and I think you have ways to create wealth, right? That is far in excess of trying to grab, a 10 or a a Jackson off of people on a monthly basis.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. I totally agree, right? Of course, deal flow is what we're talking about there. And it's a completely different type of deal flow than almost anyone looks at, right? Because I think the closest to this is probably, Ryan Hoover or even Sahil, their funds or their own wealth they invest, right? Because they look at very early stages, but yet it's usually still probably almost an order of magnitude beyond where most of you guys are right now, right? Because almost no one is looking at anyone without even traction, revenue numbers, right? That stuff. At least it's really hard if you don't know and don't have a Silicon Valley kind of network, right? So I love that idea. And that's what I mean, right? I'm trying to force myself to not think short-term revenue, but also I quit my job, right? I have a timeline myself. So it's kind of, you guys know, you're in the same boats. This is great. Thank you. Awesome. Anyone else? This is fantastic. We can fill the entire hour with you just giving me feedback. I love it. But that's, of course, not the point.
Or learning. That's the point.
Yeah, true. That's true. But you did put some time into your update video, so at the very least, I want to show them and give you guys an opportunity to talk about it. So why don't we do that? Maybe we'll cut the Q&A for each a minute short today, or shorter than before, and then we can end on time or have a couple more minutes at the end. As usual, I'll give you cues on Slack back channeling. So today we're going to turn it around because last week I wrote down the order, and we're going to start with Harmony CD.
Hi, co-starting cohort. Here's Catherine with the update on Harmony Content Base. So our plans for last week was to do 3 usability tests with people after launching the beta on Wednesday last week. And we actually did 4. We basically did one-on-one sessions with people where we had them log into the tool, go to the first project, and we basically just let them explore and experience the builder themselves. And it was super useful to just learn about how people expect the navigation to work, whether people figure out that the first project is already an interactive project, and just how they engage with the builder itself, like finding elements on the right to build up this whole page. And yeah, so now for this week, we are going to do a strategy review to see how we're going to move forward and how this changed in our plans since last month, basically. Also focusing more on enterprise sales. We're going to do a lot of direct outreach to also have even more customer discovery interviews and to also target a very specific vertical. And we're going to start a complete design overhaul, partially based on the learnings we did with usability tests up until now, but we have a few more scheduled. Also, thanks, Connor, for participating in them. Your feedback was super helpful, and just seeing how you engaged with the product is really what we were looking for. And yeah, so we're going to professionalize the whole identity of Harmony and improve the builder so that it becomes more intuitive. Thanks. Yeah, so exactly, we had 3 interviews planned, and now we are actually we already have 6 now scheduled. 4 of them are done, and actually more incoming, so that's really useful. I think in terms of question for you, what would interest me is actually your opinion, because when we were thinking of launching the product, we first thought maybe we'd do a bigger beta, but then we narrowed it down to say, okay, it's more for a private beta, so we can actually do more of these usability tests and see how people engage and learn more about it. But especially with a product like a builder, I would love your opinion on when do you think a product like that really, in your opinion, would be ready to just ship to the public? Because, there's always this balance between ship as early as possible, but at the same time with a builder, it's not like you can pretend make it work in the background. So, yeah, so I would really love to hear your opinions on that.
I've got a view on this. Don't think of it in terms of a builder. Think of it in terms of a tool to build something. And if you define what that something is and can visualize it, you're ready when you can build that something. Even if there's things that aren't quite working, that you're not happy with, proving that you can go end to end, get that in front of a customer, get them wanting that end solution. I take the view, this is with my app, I take the view that I want enough people screaming for me to fix things that are wrong, because I don't want to spend time fixing things that nobody wants. So sell the solution relentlessly and then fix it as you go. Get the demand before the supply in that sense. That's my view.
Hey, Catherine, to kind of go off of Martin's point, that's a brilliant point. I think we can even kind of tie in a bit of our conversation you and I were talking about what my thinking process was when I was building. I was going into it, what is the simplest thing I can build? I put myself in startup founder mode, building a very simple landing page, sticking my logo on there, one liner to kind of get that going. And I was able to do that. Sure, we ran into some speed bumps. Helped you obviously iterate a whole lot, which you acknowledge, and I saw taking all of that stuff, and I'm sure fixed it all. But I was still able to put a landing page together. I was still able to put something together that I would then be comfortable putting out my maybe recent domain. So maybe think of your MVP that you're comfortable publicly launching is the ultimate deliverable that your tool, like Martin is talking about, could be somebody else's MVP. Like your MVP you're going to be able to build somebody else's MVP, despite you not having the perfect bells and whistles quite yet. So does that kind of maybe start considering taking that in consideration?
Yeah, thanks.
I would throw in the idea of building someone else's MVP seems about right. I think there are two ways you can look at the job of the software. The first is as a prototyper, right? And that you're building maybe some sort of moderately high fidelity prototype, and which then is a focus on the ability to build, right? The build experience becomes really important for that because you're trying to make the cost of doing that prototyping relatively low. That's a story. It's also a crowded market. Lots of people are going after that. And one thing I really don't like about that market strategically is that throwing more money into UX is rewarded, right? So that means you're in an arms race with other companies have a lot more money. The second way of doing it, and this is getting to sort of Martin's point, is figure out what is really good for building, right? What is something that, either because it comes from your expertise or because it's sort of the way these initial people are going, something that's really good for that is the end game, right? And then it's not so much about being easy to build. It's about being some combination of easy to tweak, right? To make it just what I want, my special snowflake that, I buy off the rack and tailor. Or it's really easy to own. And ownability is something that is really underinvested in most no-code platforms. And if you make it easier to own, you decrease the effective TCO regardless of what your price is. And that means you get a lot less pressure, a lot less price elasticity of demand because you're able to decrease the cost of ownership so much because it's de-risked. And there are multiple ways of doing that in terms of service levels or certifications or whatever. But the figuring out what that end game that you can do well, I think might be more important than the builder experience for being able to get the first 100,000 versus just to gain the first 1,000.
Yeah, I really like that perspective. What exactly do you mean with easy to own as well? Because I could have two interpretations now. One is more that it's about branding, that you visually it's like part of your company, or the other one I could understand is that you have more like an on-premise model. That might be my software background thinking about that, which on-premise. But what do you mean exactly with easy to own?
Okay, that's going to be in the eye of the beholder, right? It could be things like branding. It could be things like language. It could be things like having a debug staging zone, right? So they can be making changes and then being able to commit them across, which right now is not really found in almost the no-code platforms, or some ability to be able to wire that together. It could be about integrations, which is something that used to be something you got almost for free for on-premise. It's very hard when you're when you're in the cloud. Something that you're good at, right? That other folks might not be so good at. That decreases from their point of view, not just the outlays they've made, but the risk that they're taking on. How can it be that using your software is less risky than their next alternative? I think doing that's the key to making it. That's key to making it cheaper and easier to own.
I see. Thanks. Yeah.
Just to add to that very quickly, I heard this story years ago. I don't know the research, but if you're on e-commerce, there's a subtlety between whether you're saying like your cart, your basket, versus my cart, my basket, or my account, your account. One imposes that it's managed. If it's here's your account, which means we look after it, it's your account. And if it's my account, it's like it's you deal with it. And I think just to continue what Ray's saying, it's in the eye of the beholder. Do your clients want it managed and not have the responsibility, Or do they want to retain control and be responsible? A web developer will have control, and a Wix user will offload it. So there's that balance, and you're sort of in the middle. You're giving the control, but you're maintaining the service.
Yeah. I give you two more examples. I would say Ghost versus Medium. Medium, you don't own your content, right? That's for bloggers. Ghost, you can. Number one, you can opt into their hosted, managed solution, but you can self-host, own everything, which is fantastic. And then specifically on your space, I would compare Bubble to UI Bakery. They're not on the same playing field at all, but UI Bakery is, you pay for the service, but they let you export the code, right? And you own the code in Angular, I think it is for them. And Bubble, you don't, that's not an option, right? As far as I know, anyway. And that is actually, for me personally, that's one reason why I like Bubble, but I'm not, as a developer, ownership is important, right? And I think, to Ray's point, like, the further along you get in your project, at least knowing, having that option, whatever that is, further down the line is very reassuring, because at some point, more likely than not, you're going to have to rebuild it if you can't buy it, and own it, right? If you get an investment, for example. But maybe that model changes, who knows?
I'm not convinced that that's actually your customer target audience. I'm not convinced that they will expect to be able to export out the code. But I think it's a good question to find the answer to.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Like, the beginning, like, if you're not a coder, especially, which is probably your audience, you might not think like that. That's a good point. Okie dokie. Phone to email. Uh-oh. Did I cut you off?
Not me.
No, I think maybe she froze. All right, we'll go to phone to email. Maybe we can come back to that last thought.
Cohort crew. This is Ray with a report on week 3 of the Phone to Email initiative. The plan for this past week was to be trying a public request for feedback. But what I found is that the forum-based posting was doing relatively well, and because of the constraints I had, I was spending more time trying to bank the wins of getting interviews using the forum posting techniques I've been using so far, which is fantastic. I'm being able to have these new interviews, and we're now well past the original KPIs. The thing I've turned my attention to mostly in really the last couple of days has been trying to start to do what's next. Which is take the ideas I've been getting from the customer validation interviews, turn them into content, and then turn the content into a lead funnel, which I'm just starting to do, which is pretty darn exciting to me. You can see through the KPIs, I'm really sort of starting to blow the doors off of it. And I'm expecting that interviews completed will be like 8 or 9, maybe even 10 by the end of next week. We'll see. Referral-based ones seem to have a longer lead time associated with them. So those things might be showing up on these KPIs after the end of the co-starting initiative. But that means it's all continuing to go the right way. There's a flywheel of customer data that's already being formed here. Out of this, I get the lesson that my difficulty now isn't so much the interviewing or collecting the conversations, it's trying to write it, trying to turn it into a form longer than 30 seconds of speaking, and trying different techniques to get at that. And then also, of course, follow-ups and thank yous work and are appreciated by all. For this next week, the original plan was to complete the interviews and get some next steps. But really, I want to focus on continuing to beat back my lizard brain, get content into the marketing, get some of these initial ads going so that I can be leaving the cohort with momentum as to progress we'll be making in the coming weeks. So to that end, I'd like to be asking the group what your best practices are for creating content, both in point of tools, service vendors you recommend, because clearly me sitting at a blank piece of paper is not as productive as it might be, and also your thoughts as it relates to paid acquisition.
I'll jump in. I find it really fascinating that you say about starting from a blank piece of paper. That's exactly what I'm trying to solve in my product. But it does take hard work to write. Sounds like you're looking to outsource the content writing. Is that what I've interpreted there?
Yeah, or at least get some kind of multiplier on the content work I've been doing so far, right? Some combination of I'm getting through the first couple of paragraphs and then feeling like I'm just starting to repeat myself. How do I turn this, turn an idea that I've been conveying in roughly 75 words and turn it into 500 good ones as opposed to 1,000 bad ones?
What's your? There's so many questions. What's your objective with the content? Where are you publishing? Who are you targeting? Where do you want the content discovered? Like those kind of questions.
Yeah, so ideally, I'm looking to have these be either coming off, at least initially, either coming directly off search, or be the landing for the for paid acquisition that I'm doing off of Reddit and DuckDuckGo.
Okay. So,
by the way, choosing those platforms specifically because they're relatively small before I go to the bigger universe like Google.
Yeah. So search is, I see them as different. Search, the dynamics around that are quite different. You might be hitting people at a different part of the discovery journey. And then you've got the whole keyword research and all of that to come into play. This is what this is what I mean about workshops, like go to a deep dive into these things. Which I'm more than happy to contribute into something like that. But then, and then if it's like a paid, then you're going to advertising copy, which is a different discipline. One thing that I put through my mindset is there's a thing called the story brand. It's a great book, and are you familiar with it at all? Or
yes, I read it.
Yeah. So you're looking at just reminding yourself what is the character arc you want your reader to go through. What is the problem? Where are you the guide? Show them that they can get there. Take them through that journey, and then show them the alternative. Is if they didn't take any action, they didn't implement what you're talking about, and then conclude with happily ever after, and they're a new person. That's a really brief summary of the whole. Once you read the book, you can't watch any TV program without thinking, there's the gap. Like now they've look, they just created new drama and kept them stringing along. And it turns out that marketing is exactly the same. So, I feel like this is something we could go deeper into. I appreciate we can't really do it in a few minutes.
Hey, Ray, you communicate very effectively. Have you considered, not podcasting necessarily, just, voice memo, recording yourself, and then transcribing that and then beefing that into part of the blog?
That's good, yeah.
I did see a service that does this really amazing. You record, and then you can actually type, edit, and it redoes your voice for you. It's actually the other way around for podcasting, using machine learning. I just thought, just from what you're saying there.
I shared a rule in the general chat that if I needed more content, I work in PR and I have a lot of writers, so I unfortunately don't level up my own writing. But a tool I posted about was an AI writing tool that I did go and try, and it was amazing. I mean, and you could see that they have a video there. Writers are going out of business if this is really how it works, because you can tell it, you tell it what you need, you give it certain characteristics, and it gives you options. It looks like it can help with a variety of content needs.
Sounds like this
is conversion.ai you're talking about?
Yeah, I was using something else, and then literally the 2 days after I started using it, it was bought by this conversion one. So I didn't try that one, but the other one I used was great, which is now gone, I guess. But
maybe that's awesome. That's the update. It says on the website, Jarvis just got a big upgrade. Maybe that's what they bought is the upgrade.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
I saw that and I was thinking, should I get that? And now I appreciate your recommendation. I'm going to go and try out the trial. Thank you.
Yeah, it's worth trying at least, just because if you like tech, you like that. It was just awesome.
So also, if you guys, since there's still a small community, it doesn't always work, but I have been successful with actually reaching out to such companies and requesting like a discount code or something for co-starting community. So if you guys have tools which we are all kind of eager to try, let me know and we'll reach out as the community. Sometimes works. UI Bakery, for example.
Cool.
Yeah. Sweet.
So, that's great stuff.
All right, so let's see. We are going to Elliot, Dine on the Farm.
Hello, everybody. Sending this in a little bit late. Sorry, Sven. Week 3. I talked to people at the farmers market. It was. I can't say I learned a lot. I didn't collect emails, which again, putting pen to paper, I need to get past that. But good conversations. People seem interested. And then I also made a little landing page and will hopefully use this to maybe more easily get people on a wait list. I'm really thinking that I should just pick a date and plan an event. I think I've felt very busy the last few weeks with other projects. This is still something I want to do and I'm interested in. So kind of just need to figure out the best way to, as we do in this group, sort of just make it happen and get it done. And so that is what I'm going to focus on. Besides just talking to people, that has been helpful. I think when I did some event planning, I don't actually need that many people to buy a $100 ticket. So, gonna sort of just try and keep it moving this next week. I don't have any questions for everybody. So
I see you're using Card, recommendation from last week. Fantastic. It's working.
Yeah, it was so easy. I was impressed. But yeah, don't really have a big update. I feel a little guilty. I didn't get as much done as I mentioned. But something I didn't mention there, which to help me move this along and hopefully, like I said, get some. To me, as coming from a marketing background, getting a list is the biggest thing. So I said yes to actually. So in the past few weeks, I haven't actually worked at the farmers market. I do it about once a month. This coming weekend, I said yes to covering 2 markets, one in Manhattan, one in Brooklyn. So I hope me being there for the 7 hours, if I don't come back next week with a little bit more, some emails or something, maybe there's a problem with me. But so I said yes to get me out there and make some more progress.
I've got two ideas. Sorry. Getting people to give their email. Do you have anything physical that can be a cue to invite them to see what it is with a sign up right there, rather than relying on you to have to approach them and reveal what you're doing? I'm thinking like trade shows. It's all about the stands and catching people's eyeballs to get intrigue. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you want people on a mailing list, is there something you can give in return, such as drop them a PDF about how to get the best produce from a farmer's market? So using your expertise to introduce yourself, what you're about, but they get something that's of value in exchange for an email address. So that way you probably won't feel so, the pressure won't be so great on you for just asking and not giving, if that makes sense. That you are giving, it just so happens that you're doing this really cool thing with Dine on a Farm. Second thing, you mentioned about picking a date, and I'm curious as to whether that would be a good idea because it puts pressure for you to get people to go to it, or could be a bad idea because it puts pressure to get people to go to it. Depends. Alternatively, if that doesn't work, can you treat your friends or family to a dinner date, video it, show the experience so that you sell it? That way people can see what they're going in for, and you've kind of got this really cool case study to demonstrate. It's a marketing video that actually shows what it is. For me, that's what I would look for if I was gonna buy something. The one that has the video that shows me what I'm going to get versus the one that doesn't. I'll pick the one that shows me if it's good. That's my.
Yeah, awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Actionable things. So I appreciate that.
You could maybe even make that marketing video in a way, or from the content you create while you're doing that for yourself. A very similar video would be a marketing video for that farm, which they might be willing to give you a discount for the dinners, or pay you for
right.
it.
I mean, they all don't do very, most do pretty poor marketing. So
just a very quick tip. If you've got an iPhone or a smartphone, film it in slow motion and put some nice emotive music to it, and you're just capturing an experience. Doesn't have to be jarring, doesn't have to be odd conversations and shaky camera work. Slow motion all the way.
Just a wine slowly pouring out of the bottle, right?
Oh, I can see it. I can see it. And stand back and telephoto as well. So zoom in.
So all those ideas about the marketing video are good. I don't know where your skill set is, or it sort of calls for you to be making some investment in figuring out how to get the video going. And I think getting out to the farm would be a really great thing to do. I think another thing you could do is just even at the farmer's market, there's an opportunity with your phone to be doing two things. The first is interviewing not even the people going to the farmer's market, interview the people who are at the stands, right? Who are working them, what's their food, get them to talk about their stuff, let them just sell, right? And then you have video that you actually don't need to cut all that much, right? You can just do something as simple as iMovie, give yourself a time budget to just slice up hey, here's what happened at the farmer's market last week. And then you're making that you have a YouTube channel. And Martin can talk about how effective that can be as an audience grower. Now, why is it that you're asking people's email addresses? Hey, you've got a YouTube channel, right? And you're doing this, and you ask, and now you can be asking them for an interview. What are they doing at the farmers market? Is there something they particularly liked, et cetera? And now the reason they're going to want to give over their email address is so you can show them the video that features them. You could be going down the YouTube route on that, depending on whether that feels easy for you. The second thing you can be doing, which doesn't have to be either or, is a Substack newsletter. And we sort of talked about the virtue of being able to do newsletters before, but newsletters you can do almost for free by just giving hey, here's what happened at the farmer's market. Like, well, how am I supposed to write about this? Well, how about you just go to each of the stands, you're taking pictures of their price lists and of their food, right? You have something photo heavy, you're showing what the stuff looks like, you are giving useful information for people who might want to come to the next farmer's market, right? So it's immediately useful for the customers and the sellers. Hey, they really want that information out there too, because it's drawing more people to their stands. By having that information out there, you're now in a position where you're giving before you're getting, right? So why are they giving their email addresses or whatever it is? It's because you're creating useful content and you're becoming a linchpin of that community. And that is a position that you could monetize using the farm to table on the farm, destination approach, or anything else that you come up with. But that credibility is the real asset of your business, and one that I think that just the allocation of a pretty finite amount of time and not even all that much expertise, pick the path that works for you best, will allow you to realize.
Yeah, I like that idea right, any idea I choose, if you couldn't tell, there's always plenty of ideas that I feel like I should do. So having that community, having that list could be useful in many ways.
Yeah, and just to throw in there, if you can capture what's coming up in the next visit, like what's seasonally coming up, and then get people to come for that because they know that they'll get the things that they want.
Right, and that's what I wrote down. It's actually about to be ramp season, which I'm sure maybe only Ray knows about, but it comes around once a year, and it's kind of an exciting thing to find at the market. So stuff like that is seasonal. That you sort of maybe need to know about it to look for it.
Yeah, and
also, when you interview actually the people from the stands, they probably also know a lot about how they sell it already because they interact so much with the people who are visiting the markets that they probably know their motivations already quite well. And I can also imagine that you just get a lot of content from that because we had an earlier update call that we were saying, just that you can get vegan food if you go to a farm or so. That would be important for me as well to know that, or also just that it's organic or whatever they do. So you have so much content in that already. If they talk about their business, that would be relevant to me if I want to visit the farms.
Yeah, and if you can tap into any expertise that can give inspiration on how to prepare the food, how to cook the food, and how to pair the food with other things, just give a bit of inspiration and tips. Just as much content as you can you can get.
Yeah,
I totally echo it. Like, you need to become the content curator, right? Because that content is fantastic and no one is putting it out there. And then whatever you offer after that, right? It's basically the same advice Ray gave to me, right? It's like, don't start selling them. Just be valuable first. And then because people come to you because they can't find it anywhere else, whatever offering you put out, a dinner, and all of the farms they already started to love because you turned them onto it, they're going to buy it, right? So I guess maybe turning it around, building audience first. It's tough, though. I'll tell you, I'm trying to do that right now.
Right.
Okay. See what Endeavor was up to with Connor.
Happy Wednesday, co-starting team. This is Connor here with Endeavor for our Week 3 update. In the last week, we wanted to add some more content into the platform, get an explainer video done, initiate Phase 2 with Springboard, get back on social media, and squash any remaining bugs that don't have a cost associated. Well, how did it actually go? We got more than 40 listings onto the platform, so totaling over 150 now. Very diverse, as you can see here, between the types of listings. Courses are very prominent, of course, and then the area of tech focus from medtech to gaming to no-code dev to full stack to fintech, keeping them still very targeted though. No response from Springboard, so just took it into our own hands basically and have initiated Phase 2 with one of the designers from Phase 1. So kind of an extended 90-day window with them. I can explain that further. Back on social media, feels very good to be back on social media after about 6 months of behind the scenes and not really a whole lot on social media. So excited there. Get our newsletter up and running again. We had really good engagement and analytics with our former newsletter. So really excited to get that up and running again. And we squashed all the bugs that now don't have a cost or a retainer cost associated with the contracted dev team. What's planned in the next week? Launch publicly on Product Hunt. So this past 2 weeks has just been like a little private beta kind of thing, out to the exclusive kind of first 15, 20 people combing through the initial inevitable bugs, breaks, and iterations. And so now we're ready to get out into Product Hunt to the public. I'm actually going to be proposing to a potential co-founder. I can explain that further, finishing the rest of the high fidelities for the next set of updates, and then obtaining over 100 professional users. KPIs, so again, kept it really exclusive, so we only had a few more exclusive people sign up, just 5 more. But when we put it out on Product Hunt, if not today, on like Wednesday or Thursday, definitely see that going much higher. Organizations, I've been adding them all myself, some decent website traffic, and then here are some quick visuals on the high fidelity for our next kind of updates and redesign. Big help for the week is going back to this. Obtaining our first 100 professional users. It takes a village, so it's very much like everyone's help now that we're ready to go public on Product Hunt. Would very much love everybody's help, blasting the word and sharing with your friends and stuff like that. So thank you very much.
I'll take the first one this time. Touch on Springboard. Why did you not hear back from that? Because I wanted to thank you for mentioning this. this should be in the newsletter. It's certainly in my notes for the newsletter. Great resource. I'm going to start working with them. Free design resources.
Definitely.
So this will be fun.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why I didn't hear back. To be completely honest with you, I never even knew there was a phase 2 going into it. I just got a really pleasant surprise email that said, "Hey, thanks for your experience. Here's the survey. Shoot us an email back if you're interested in phase 2." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a phase 2." And so emailed her back, and it was a her, and yeah, no response. And so yeah, what I ended up doing was so there's 2 things I can tie in here relevant to that co-founder thing I quickly mentioned in that video. One of the 3 designers, I don't feel as though he has the potential to maybe be like a leadership role, like a co-founder role, but he's a phenomenal designer and really grasps the UX very well, and he's got a lot of potential and loves what we're doing. And so we've been meeting after the 4-week engagement has ended, and so we've kind of agreed upon like a 90-day extension, if you would, keep on working on some of the immediate high fidelity, and of course, so look, we're going to compensate you in some way, but really the ultimate hope is maybe help him find a job. He's even interested. He's like, "Dude, I'll even move to South Florida, find a job for me down there, and then part-time, full-time role in due time." Another of the 3 designers, Yasmina, she is awesome. She is the one who I had Thursday, I think is the phone call. We've kind of hinted at it, really started digging at drop the equity terminology, started to exploring those conversations, and we both are extremely interested in continuing our work together on that type of level. So going to be having that conversation with her and one of our product advisors tomorrow. So yeah, bit of a long answer to your question.
Lots of things going on. Very cool.
And I haven't checked how many users we have, honestly. I haven't checked Google Analytics today. I haven't checked our back end, how many signups that we've had. It's just been from social media page, like everything open to every forum, and just back and forth, comments back and forth. And so I'm excited to when I got this call, I'll shoot an update in Slack, this is how many we had sign up today when I checked. But yeah, it's been a fun day.
Do you have any questions or areas what's the biggest challenge you've got?
Sharing with your friends. Yeah, just getting on social media. If you don't mind, I'd be happy to share specific links if that would help you know what would be best to share. Would be most helpful to share. I'd be happy to do kind of that.
I know when I went through the sign up, I got stuck at the university.
Yeah, so we'll be crossing that bridge as far as international users go. Definitely. Knowingly, we're still going to try to keep it targeted here in South Florida for the next few months or so. Still going to explore outside of South Florida, but got to handle a few things before I can commit to the budget to start expanding.
Yeah. The question is, do my friends have to be in a certain place?
Oh, okay. So true. Good point. Yeah, good. That's a good point. Right. Yeah, I didn't really think about that to that extent. In the U.S. would be ideal.
Okay.
U.S. Limiting to South Florida, that's where I'm just going to be spending a lot of my time targeting our posts to. And
yeah.
But yeah, in U.S. if you can somehow keep them directed to the U.S. Colleagues, friends, your network.
Cool. So I'm going to ask you the question: what's your success criteria at this phase? What's going to deem you a thumbs up, and you can move on to the next phase, or bit of rework?
Regarding just the company altogether, or CoStar?
Probably in the next 2-3 weeks. What do you deem as your success criteria?
I would say within the next 2 weeks, definitely having at least 100 users, and I'd say at least above 50% of those active on the platform. We've already had a couple people. We've driven some very little bit of revenue. The courses that we've had converted already were it came with a little bit of a nudge from me to some of my colleagues, and they were of the lower end courses, which is okay. Monetization falls third on my list of priorities. Virality, stickiness, and monetization falls third right now. Goal right now is
that makes sense.
A large targeted audience, build that pool, start shifting or expanding, I should say, our focus onto then the organization side of things. I think I mentioned multiple times right now. I'm the one posting all the content. Focuses on getting a lot of professional users signed up in there. driving a lot of activity, viewing the different listings, maybe pushing the use of direct messaging, activity tracking. And then once we get a nice large user base of professionals, I think we have opportunity to then expand and focus on organizations. I think also in due time, I have a very solid idea of how we're going to monetize. Again, we have already started driving revenue from the affiliate commission. That's not the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is the subscription. But as the days and weeks have gone on, my confidence are increasing in us being able to provide a paid subscription for the professionals and not really so much have to rely on the organizations being a paid subscriber. I'm finding a lot of opportunity. I'm finding that there's a lot more of my advisor put it a good way, a lot more of a value chain I'm now realizing that we can serve our professional users for, and of course, identify the right ways we can monetize that through subscription.
The way I think about it is, if you stumble across your demand, if you create your demand, the monetization becomes flexible. In other words, you can lean into what works.
Right.
But it's really hard to do monetization when you haven't got the traction, when you haven't got people's mind share, where they're coming back. So I guess my question on success criteria is, it sounds like you need to fill. It's like you need to fill your test with people, 100 people, and you need to hit that recurring usage. And if those numbers don't work, then it's kind of like you've got to keep digging to find out what it is that's going to get people to stick, isn't it? Have you come across the book Hooked?
No,
so it's how to build habit-forming products. The thing you don't want to lose people because of just an inconvenience or bad timing, where it could have been really useful to them, but you've just lost them. It's about giving them what they need, the ability to do things. It's been a while since I read it, so I can't remember off the top of my head. But one of the things is the right level of investment that people put into the product, that they feel like actually letting go now or walking away now is a loss to them. Mm-hmm. So Facebook is a good example. When you put your friends in and you put a few posts in, you're like, well, that's me hooked kind of thing. I'd probably recommend that if you're really trying to get people to keep investing and using the product, it's a really good book at helping you understand some of the dynamics that are going to be at play with, what people are likely to do to stick or to go.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I agree with that. And then Martin, I cut you some slack since you're cutting in your own time, but we will go over to your status update.
Cool.
Thank you.
Hi, co-starting cohort. So activities in the last week. I said I was going to do the focus mode feature and launch a new YouTube video. I haven't quite done that. So progress has been slower on the dev front. I have done something though. I've got the navigation part in for the study mode, focus mode. What I do is you hit focus mode, you start a study session, and then you get your study notes. Turns out this is going to be a bit more complicated than I anticipated, because knowing what you're studying is actually a bit more tricky than I thought. So a bit more work is needed there. That's the dev side. YouTube video, I've recorded a new video that is now in edit. I've sort of switched out the one I was going to do, and that's now ready for edit. So I haven't got any data, or I haven't got that launched at the moment. And really over the next week, my focus is purely going to be just get this feature. All my time needs to go on that. I mean, basically it's been a bit slow because of Easter and various other things. However, stats-wise, YouTube videos in the last 7 days, I reckoned about 1,200. Turns out I've got over 2,100 video views, which is really good. Subscribers, that's sort of getting momentum. I thought I'd be about 450. I'm now 493. And mailing list subscribers, 125 was my prediction. I'm now 159. So the machine is working. So that's really quite exciting.
Very cool.
Martin,
I love to see this.
I was just about to ask Martin, do you know which of your videos is driving your view numbers?
Yeah, there's about 2 which are quite technical. deep dives into a program called Obsidian. So the newer videos, there's not enough data at the moment to really get an understanding as to whether they're going to get in the recommendation and the browse features in YouTube. But there's certainly a couple which are getting the lion's share of activity. Usually stuff talking about not my product, other people's products. So there you go. But it's good. I'm enjoying it. So yeah, basically, I'll just add this. I think the hardest thing for me in the last week has been both sort of like a change in our routine at home. So with the kids, not really having any of that extra spare time that I was kind of relying on, and being more tired in the evenings, which is, my main activity is between 10 and 1 a.m. doing this. So when I'm falling asleep on the sofa at 9:30, it's really hard to, do the grind. And sometimes you're like, actually, I do need some sleep. So I think that's been the toughest thing. But really, the mindset around that, as long as I just chip away, do something, eventually when the cycle comes round and I get more time, that's when I'll push a bit harder. It's the biggest thing I'm appreciating is now I can take my foot off a little bit and still see the YouTube subscribers, the views. Most importantly, the conversion into the mailing list isn't just me pushing all the time. It's now the system. I've proved that the system works, and it's great. I can just see that growth now while I'm building away and have a nice, healthy mailing list of people who know what the thing is and might actually want to use it.
If most of the views are coming in from people looking at the Obsidian product, do you think that's telling you anything about how you are positioned in the market, you personally, right, as an expert, as opposed to more specifically Fotel?
Correct. So building a presence on YouTube as an expert in knowledge and note taking, that's something before Flowtelling, something I wanted to do anyway, because I love to share what my experiences are, what I'm learning, and if I can teach that, that's really good. So in a way, that's a win on its own. In that respect, I did get called out in the comments where someone says a complete, shameless plug of my own product, because I actually use my product to outline what we're going to talk about in the video. Then I switch to the app. I'm like, that's fair game. I don't mind if I'm subtly showing this slightly better product in time. And here's the thing you could have, but here's my awesome product. But we're talking about this other thing. Oh, by the way, I've got a wait list that you can sign up to. I'm just going to milk that until something happens. Yeah.
You always have the YouTube police, right? Like,
yeah, it's quite funny, the comments you get sometimes. But if people aren't saying negative things, you're not doing it right. That's the truth. So yeah, it's that balance between developing and keeping the content going, making sure I put the time. The product, producing the YouTube videos, is a good test of my actual product. So the whole goal of my co-starting was to build the features that I can test whether I can build a habit around, do my studying, my writing. I didn't actually put this in the goal for the co-starting, but actually is then the project side, but it's subtly coming in naturally into the product. So when I do the writing for the content for the videos, and then eventually my blog as well. So that's the theory. And I'm just basically dog fooding the whole journey. So I'm using my product in anger. I'm creating awareness of it in the building in public. And it's sort of coming through into the mailing list. So go create content, go find your people. That's my recommendation. I seriously, YouTube is amazing in that I'm not paying for the audience. I can have full access to high quality, long form, hour-long videos to people who are interested. And it just sort of naturally works if you get the right algorithm to pick it up. And I haven't seen that on any other platform where you're just in the noise. And you think YouTube is even more noisy with the amount of content, but there are niches and there are niches. And I think I'm sort of finding mine. And and everybody's welcome if you produce content.
Martin, I would love to make one of those deep dives about that. I think I'm super passionate about that. We are starting. We have this YouTube channel, of course, for co-starting, where there's no optimization whatsoever. It's 19 followers, probably all my friends. But for the one with my wife and then my wife's, we're talking about this a lot, right? And I would be curious to hear from your experience. Did you find like milestones? Like I have a couple of friends I talked to about this who have their own channels, and they found like there are certain steps where all of a sudden things started to speed up. And some of them know what that was, some of them don't. How's that been for you?
Yeah. So there's sort of a story behind this. So I started my YouTube properly in like 2016, did a daily video for 130 days. Truth be told, I was kind of creatively stifled due to work things. So I'm like, fine, I'll just pick up the camera and just let whatever happens happen. I loved it, but it nearly burnt me out. Then my son was born and I had to take a step back. I tried building, I wanted to build a startup during that, to create a video series. It was going to be called Be Brill, to help you be brilliant. Turns out there's some similarities. I just didn't know the path. Turns out to be brilliant, you have to help your mindset and everything. This is where Flowtelic comes in, is the precursor to doing that. There were a couple of moments in that journey which I saw some rapid growth. I got about 350 subscribers initially, like during that journey. And quite frankly, it's all keyword driven, if I'm honest. So I was documenting a situation I had. I just bought a new Microsoft laptop and wouldn't charge, sent it back. And then they sent it back saying I bent the pins, but it was like a brand new laptop. So I had this whole story. And then Microsoft eventually, very kindly, actually gave me one for free in the end. So that was like really good YouTube content. And people kept coming in for that. But it wasn't the kind of content I wanted to produce. And that's the really interesting part about this, is if you're forcing it, you start becoming less authentic, and you start really going down a road that you don't enjoy because you're only doing it for the algorithm. You're only doing it for these people who will drop you the moment you deviate from your path. And then later videos, I'd see every time I put a video live over the last few years, I'd see people go rather than stay. And it's like, hang on a minute, this is like, that's soul destroying. And it turns out, just forget it. Like, just have your why. My why at the moment is building this product, helping myself on my own journey at knowledge sharing and knowledge learning, and yeah, just practicing the art of filmmaking in some form, communication. In a way, I'm doing it for myself, and just leaning into what I'm passionate about, and with a bit of technique, with a bit of subtlety. That's when you can marry the two of something that the algorithm likes in its niche to what you want to produce. And I feel the difference. I feel like every video I produce, I enjoy producing. It's something that is part of my identity in a way. Like, I can be authentic through it. I'm not producing a polished, branded thing. I'm not careful of what I have to say because of some corporate guidelines type of thing. I can say what I want to say because I can trust what I want to say. It's going to be authentic and it's going to be the right thing. And maybe I'm lucky. I don't know. I think other people could find this pattern in their own niches. Yeah, that's
awesome. Yeah, I think that's good advice, right? Like your last couple sentences there goes for any type of social media, certainly maybe for any type of content. Not sure if I want to go that far, but it sounds like it. Cool, this is awesome. Any last questions for Martin? Great. So we saw all your updates. We already talked a little bit about what we're going to do next week. We are over time again. I'll put that on you guys this time because you helped me in the beginning, which I much appreciate. But I think that's a good thing, right? Like if we're engaged throughout and it runs over a little bit, I look at this as a very good sign. rather than, well, we didn't have any questions for anyone. All right, 20 minutes early today. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, then I'll let you go. I know it's late in Europe. Get a good night's sleep and rock this last week. Let us know if we can help for this last week on Slack, and let's make the best of it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Sven.
Thanks. Bye.